If you're typing in the correct format, one page equals about 1 minute of screen time, which means your feature-length script will be between 90 and 120 pages long. Your 10-minute short will be 10 pages long, and so on. Taking a 120-page screenplay, here's a bog-standard structure chart, and here's what to write where. If this sounds prescriptive, know the rules to break the rules. Learn the rules, then throw them away. This is a 3-act structure chart, but some people use 5 acts, or even 7. Some people invent their own structure, but it's good to start out knowing the basic rules so you know what you're ripping up. In the first couple of pages, we have the hook. This could be your pre-front title sequence, in which James Bond leaps over buildings for a bit before the front titles. Or it could be a short hooky sequence over which your front titles mix up. We use hooks in storytelling all the time. If I say to you, the other day I was walking in the park and I passed some red roses and blah blah blah, you'd soon get bored. But if I say to you, something absolutely terrifying happened to me the other day. I was walking in the park and I passed some red roses. You're hooked. So the first couple of pages of your screenplay should hook the reader in. Make them gripping, exciting, terrifying, arty, hilarious, depending on the genre. Make sure your reader is thinking, wow, what an amazing writer. I want to keep reading, because many readers don't read past the first couple of pages. The first 10 pages set your story up. Who is the central character? Who are her friends? What does his world look like? At this stage in your story, your central character is living happily ever after, innocent of the incredible drama that's about to unfold. But you need to set up your central character's attitude to this world, bored or content. About page 10, the plot enters. Your central character's attitude to the plot at this point usually feels bored, neutral, benign. Example, another dull case for the detective. Auntie died and she left you a house in the country in the middle of nowhere you'd ever want to live. You're burnt out, you've got to take a break, so you decide to drive across America. You get a new operating system installed on your computer. You hire a new assistant or you rent your flat to somebody. From about page 12 to 20, something hooky happens. By this, I mean, just as things were going along in a kind of everyday way, we're thrown a curveball. In screenplay jargon, this is called the inciting incident. Auntie's gardener walks in. It turns out she left half her derelict mansion to you and the other half to him. And you don't get on at all, although he's single, quite handsome, and around about your age. Your operating system has the sexiest voice on the planet. In fact, she sounds suspiciously like Scarlett Johansson, and you find yourself falling in love with her. Your new assistant seems very keen. Does she want your job? This is the moment your story kicks off and gets really interesting. Make sure this so-called inciting incident is something we can see on screen. What's happening is that your central character is losing their equilibrium. They're moving from their comfort zone to a place where they're going to feel emotionally unstable. They're going to have to confront their prejudices and wounds. The first act is around 30 pages long and is often called the setup act or Act 1. By the end of this act, we've established the central character, established the goal, established the character arc by hinting at the wound, flaw, or problem. The middle act, Act 2, can be divided into two 30-page sections. In the first section, your central character's goal is to ignore the difficulties brought about by the inciting incident. By the midpoint, the difficulties have become so intense, your central character realizes there's no turning back. This moment is related to your central character's arc. You've chosen a plot and a goal that will force your central character, kicking and screaming, to confront his or her wound, flaw, or problem. Up until this point, they've been trying to avoid this confrontation with themselves. This is the moment they realize they can't run and hide anymore. For example, you're terrified of falling in love because you've been really burnt in the past. But now you're falling for Auntie's gardener. At first, you run a mile, deciding to just get that money and go home. But now you're torn. Should you take a risk at love and stay to do up that derelict mansion? Or this road trip across America was supposed to end and you were supposed to turn around and go home at this point. So bravely you take the fork in the road that is direction unknown. At around page 75 is the death scene, followed by the resurrection scene. Your character gives up on his goal and life, but then gets a brand new lease of life. He or she makes a brand new goal that's much bigger than the original, because the central character's values have changed. Now there's a great sequence that gets us to the end of the film, in which the baddies are vanquished, or love conquers all, or your central character realizes he probably needs to fall in love with a real human being rather than another operating system. The final scene at the end, like the hook, is just a couple of pages. The audience needs time to get their breath back before you tip them out onto the streets. So it's the wedding scene, the scene. It's the scene where the detective ponders philosophically on life as he walks away from the slew of dead bodies. It's the ending of Casablanca. Then there's the subplot, which has a similar structure but ends up just before the main plot. You'll read a ton of books and find a lot of charts on screenplay structure, many of which look like they've been written by mathematicians rather than writers. Just remember, none of them are right or wrong. They've all been made up by someone just like you. So be a magpie and grab the bits which feel right for you.